we can stop Judgment Day from happening. Run! Where is he?
I'll be back.
What?
From the people who brought you Shuro, Turanga, Loka, and the Tarot of Loka, now River Horse presents Terminator Genisys, the miniatures game, coming this summer. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to Wargamers. But that was very professional. That intro we got there.
It was, yeah. I've planned that for at least 3 weeks now. It took me a long time to get the timing right and stuff like that, so hopefully everyone enjoyed it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not on my deathbed anymore. Spud isn't playing DayZ, so we thought, why not do an episode? So here we are, and we're joined by the man himself, the River Horse Maestro, Mr. Alessio Cavatore. Hello.
I'm back.
Yeah, it's almost like you've never left. How many times have you been on now? 5 or 6?
Really? That many? Wow.
I think so. I think we might have to make him into an official chilling wargamer. He's actually on more than some of our guys.
I want the T-shirt.
That's fine. We'll get you one.
So, Terminator Genisys, the miniatures game. I think what everyone wants to know, first of all, how did this entire project come about? Because it's a little bit out of left field, as they say, considering the nature of all the other River Horse projects.
Yes, it's been a sudden thing, as in it came about very, very quickly, very recently. So basically, we started the project, we were already late. We were already running, hit the ground running. Well, okay, with the background, and when I made River Horse, it was about making board games initially, but a lot of people then started to ask me to make war games for them. So I was like, okay, well, I seem to be still kept in the war game world a lot more than I thought I was going to be, and basically the thought started to emerge of I would like to write a war game for River Horse, for myself, not for another company, because it's nice and is in a way easier to write games for other people, but there's a part of you as an author that thinks, I'd like to do one where I have the last call, when I am the ultimate authority, when I can say, look, it's mine. Yes, I will make mistakes, I'm sure, but it will be my mistakes. I cannot go and blame other people. I cannot. Responsibility, ownership, I think. Ownership is what I was after. So it just so happened that I had a war game, a sci-fi war game written for another company, but then that project didn't work out. So I had this project that I owned. And so the system that I owned, but I thought, well, I could create a new IP, design a new IP. After all, I did write a sci-fi novel. It's not been published yet. I'm trying. But on the other hand, I thought, yeah, but that is so much hard work. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to actually have a cool, well-known sci-fi IP that I could then use my system for and create effectively a River Horse system that I can use on other games, on other things, on other war games. And so we started actively to look for a license. This is for a few years. And it's hard work. It's really hard work to talk to big companies, big film studios that own these IPs, particularly when you're a small company like River Horse. And basically, we were talking in parallel pictures about another license, a license that not quite as big as Terminator. It's definitely a smaller license. And we eventually got that one, but we'll talk about that next year. this year.
Ooh.
Yes, that's another one for another time, not for this. But while we were talking about that, someone at their end went. So if I understand, these guys do games, war, miniatures, blah blah blah. Well, next year we have this other IP that is coming out, a reboot, and maybe they would be interested in doing something with this. And we're like, okay, yeah, well, what is it? And we're like, Terminator, rebooting Terminator. I was like, well, the moment in life where you go, sorry, I'll check my diary. Oh yes, I have a little space there. Yes. Let me think about it for a second. Yes. So basically, we started to negotiate that one, and it was very late. It was very late because we want to release it in July when the film is out. The film is out in early July. We wanted to launch the game at the same time, just before, so that people have it in the stores for the July. So already, launching something, a war game of a certain size, with like 6 months to go, 7-8 months to go max, it's challenging. It's very challenging. It's very scary and very expensive. It's scary from all points of view. However, I thought, if I turn this down because it's too difficult and late, etc., I will be probably regretting this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So it was a tough call. It was a tough decision, guys, because this is literally really, it either probably grow River Horse into something bigger, or maybe destroy River Horse, depending on how it goes and everything. So it's tense moments, interesting moments. There's a lot of big stakes, much bigger stakes than I ever played in any poker game. So exciting and scary.
I think on the day when you actually told that, we knew about this months ago, and we have not been able to tell anybody about it, and it's been so hard because Terminator. I remember when Terminator. I know it's like different. Like Terminator 2, like one of my first like scary, actiony, swearing kind of film, and when we all signed the secret forms and everything, and then it was like, yeah, this is what you're gonna be working on. Dun, 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 dun. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I was just like a proper fangirl running around Andy's kitchen going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Yes, but I think your heartbeat was kind of going dun 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 for the next few weeks, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was so hard not to tell anybody. I was just like,
Now, you say it's a war game, but it does have some board gamey elements, doesn't it?
Well, it's a war game. It's a miniature war game. It's a skirmish game, as in every model moves individually. There's no such thing as a unit. So it's a smaller scale war game. We designed it so that actually it can be played on rather small surfaces. So effectively can be played easily on a 4x4, but even smaller. I mean, the box will include a playmat. And a playmat is not a board game, as in doesn't have hexes, doesn't have squares. It literally, effectively, is your wargame table. Is your flat wargame table with a texture on it, etc. I can show you a picture of what it looks like. So if I go entire screen, share, and you can see yourselves. There is, for example, a picture of that here. So if you imagine that that's the playmat, and it does have some little endos burnt out there, lots of skulls, but basically it's a flat surface. If you think of it, it's actually your gaming table. Is your flat gaming table, and stop sharing. Yep. So on top of which, then you have punch boards of terrain, 2D terrain, area terrain, barricades and stuff that areas of rubble. So you layer on top of this. So effectively what you're doing is you're creating a mini portable that fits on your kitchen table, little war game area with 2D terrain. And of course, then you have hard plastic models for both sides, and you play effectively a war game It's not a board game. It doesn't have squares, X's. There's no movement 3, movement 2. It's actually uses a template for movement. So there's no tape measure, but the idea of that is that everything you need to play is in the box. So you have a number of templates in there, which allow you to measure movement and range of your models. So using the template, the 2D terrain, and then the 2D area with the 3D models, you play the board game. But then, of course, the contents of the box can be played with a 16 pages little starting rules leaflet. So it is slightly board gaming in that. But then on the other end, of course, you have a full color rule book which builds it up and goes, well, okay, so you can play this really quick game on the table of your kitchen table with the pieces straight out of the box because they all dry fit plastics and different colors per faction. So literally, you can play it as a little board game on your table. It's like a mini skirmish war game. But you can also scale it up. You can play your 4x4, 6x4, but with bigger forces. We're going to be selling separate boxes of Terminators and Resistance. So yeah, it scales it up to a bigger size skirmish war game. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how well it's received. We'll see how well it does, and we see start to build on it, because I mean the rulebook includes the rules for hunter-killers, flying hunter-killers, for spider tanks, for tracked hunter-killers, for A1 Abrams tanks and Apache helicopters, and all of the above. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but it could grow into something bigger if it goes well, or it can stay a nice little skirmishy, board gamey, skirmishy thing. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. The one thing that I forgot to say is, of course, because we just added it recently, is that the reverse of the playmat, we are actually designing a second side for the playmat, and there's going to be an underground bunker, an underground complex of tunnels. Like that scene in Terminator you were talking about before, Stud? Spud, when the... Stud. I called you Stud. Instead of Spud. Very good.
Yes.
People only call him that at the gym.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes. You know the scene I mean, when the Terminator gets in and starts to shoot everybody in
yeah.
So yeah, that's the box. I mean, do you want me to tell you exactly how many models, what else you get in the box?
Well, you said you get everything you need to play in the box. So it's one of those games where there's not a whole lot of effort once you open the box to going from that stage to actually playing the game.
Yes, there isn't, because what we made sure of is that the Terminator, the endoskeletons, so what you get is 10 endoskeletons. The endoskeletons will be armed with, I mean, if you watch the trailer, you can see those endoskeletons, basically the core troops, which have the big kind of machine gun, plasma machine gun type thing, which they fire from the hip. So there's 10 of them, and in each frame of Terminator is a little frame of hard plastic which has 2 Terminators and a crawler. What we call a crawler is a Terminator that suffered battle damage, lost his legs, and is now crawling on the ground and coming and bite your ankles off, or just grab you and kill you, like it does in one of the Terminator movies. So effectively, there's 10 Terminators, 10 endoskeletons, and 5 crawlers on the bad guys' side, and they're all in kind of a silvery metallic plastic. And the idea is that you just pop them out of the frames, and then they are made of 3 pieces. One piece is the legs and basically the center of the torso. The second bit is the actual proper torso that clicks on the legs, and has the head inbuilt. So one is head and torso, one is legs and base. It already has a base, so you just go click, and the third piece is arms and gun. So the gun has actually arms coming out that you clip around the shoulders of the model. So if it is a click, click. And then the good thing is that actually the torso rotates a bit around the center, and the gun can actually change angle a bit. So actually it's amazing how many different poses you can do, because the 2 legs are posed in a different position. The guns are held one to the left, one to the right. So by actually just rotating, giving a fire angle or an advancing pose, you actually can do quite a lot of variety with only 2 type of Terminators. And that's the Terminators. Then there's the Resistance, of which you get 16 rebels, 16 Resistance, which have a variety of weapons, and I think while we talk about the resistance, what I can do is to show you briefly in a screen share again some of these guys. So if I go there, rebel part. So this is the obviously this is still work in progress. It's still, you know, I can see that it's being worked on. But you have 4 bodies, and each of the body has a pair of arms. So the bodies can take these arms. You can clip all these different type of arms, starting from missile launcher, grenade launcher, plasma rifles. And what you do is you clip them. And again, thinking of variety, this shows you the assortment that can be achieved with those 4 guys, 4 bodies, and these many arms and weapons. And by the way, one in 4 of the resistance is a girl. That long hair one is a girl. So there's a female resistance fighters. So that gives you an idea of by the way, the rebels are 2 pieces. It literally is arms on body. Click. So 16 rebels, 10 Terminators, 5 crawlers, and 1 model, a resin model, which is going to be Kyle Reese. So, you know, if you're not familiar with the story, he's the guy that gets sent back in time to save Sarah. When basically John Connor sends him back. And in the trailer, you can see him as the lead actor. We have again a work in progress of the model. Let me just find him. There he is, and that's Reese. You know his glory. That's a green.
Are you still screen sharing?
I haven't screen shared it
right now.
I'm looking at it, but you're not. There he is.
So cruel.
Kyle Reese.
So
all of this
awesome.
stuff is really still, you know, being worked on. So I'm sure you very early stuff, and but you know, it looks good, very exciting, and so there's 16 plus 15, 31 plus 32 models in there, and terrain, and there's of course dice and the template. There's lots of counters, activation counters, terrain of different types, templates for movement and shooting, which actually, by the way, are the same template. So the same template does both movement and shooting. It's really clever. I'll get to that in detail. And dice. The game uses polyhedral dice. If you played Loka, you know I like polyhedral dice.
Big surprise.
Yeah, one of the unique selling points in terms of rules is that you don't have any calculation. Once you're playing the game, you know, you will calculate when you make an army list, but when you're actually playing the game, or just play a scenario with whatever is in the participants, then you don't need to calculate anything in game. In game is just flat rolls. So you know, if you're really good at hitting something, everybody hits on a certain number. But if you're really good, you will roll a big dice, a D12. If you're really bad shot, you will have to roll a D6 or a D4 even, and try to hit with that, which is obviously difficult. So that's the dice system, and finally there's an activation system. An activation system which is relying on this thing. This is the engine of the game. This dice here. It's called a fate dice because it's all about fate. As you know, there is no fate but what we make. And this dice is a kind of a silvery metallic die with red numbers. We'll get them a bit more red than these, but this is a prototype. So it's got 1, 1, 2. So it's got 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and fate. There it is. Fate. Almost if somebody scribbled on it with a knife. And that's what activates things. To put it simply, when you activate, instead of 1 me, 1 you, 1 you, 1 me, instead of alternating, you roll the dice and you will activate 1 or 2 guys or fate. If you roll fate, you don't activate any guys. So basically, you lost your chance. Your opponent gets the dice. Very exciting. Lose initiative. So your only hope is that the opponent actually rolls a fate as well and gives you the dice back. So that's the normal activation. Of course, characters, heroes, the great heroes of the Resistance and the mighty leaders of the machines, can actually start tinkering with fate. So you have a set of rules. Heroes have rules like there is no fate. There is the come with me, soldier. There is the on your feet, soldier. Or sorry, is the come with me if you want to live. Of course, sorry.
Yeah.
And so they all kind of tweak the effect of fate, so they would actually, instead of losing the turn, you can activate heroes, then they can activate other models around them, lead them. So there's a lot of about when to use your heroes, when is the right time, where you need to save them for a rainy day or to use them straight away. So it's that kind of thing. It creates a bit of uncertainty and choices of when to use or not to use your heroes, which are your most valuable thing. Not because they're great fighter. I mean, they're better than average, but not, even John Connor doesn't want to go in close combat with a single T-800. He's not going to last very long.
It doesn't sound like a good idea.
No,
So,
but he's very good at leading his men. He's very good at strategy, tactics, and initiative, and all of that.
Spud, I know you're totally on the ball, keeping up with our audience right now. I'm sure we've just got a swarm of questions that come in.
Right now, we've had no questions. It seems like we're covering absolutely everything.
But I'm also vomiting a huge amount of information.
So there's just nothing.
So regarding the miniatures, it looks like you get a lot more posability than you would do in a standard starter box for any game. You don't normally have those kind of options for any kind of posability, usually.
Yes, we tried to kind of make it simple enough and no glue required, so anybody could use it. But of course, because we wanted to basically to make it very simple, but also we know that our audience is also made of wargamers, so obviously they want to start making things a bit more complicated and convert and change and position things. We have, of course, this is the starter set, this is the beginning, and bizarrely the Terminators in the trailer all look they all do the same thing in a very machine-like thing, in a very machine-like. But of course, what we have absolutely needed to do was to come up with more types of Terminators, more variety, etc. And we luckily just recently got approved some concepts that again I'm going to share with you.
Secrets.
Well, stuff that we were toying with, like Terminators with flamethrowers. These are just concept sketches, of course. Terminators with rocket launchers in their arms. Terminators with flamethrowers in different type of flamethrowers. There's a command type Terminator. So basically, the idea is we can do some more stuff, and the idea would be that we are going to develop it and make, because of course, when you're fighting resistance that hide in tunnels and hide in rubble, you want flamethrowers. What else? So
yeah,
more type of Terminators, more type of weapons, of course. And these are just the T-800, of course. Then we have the infiltration units, i.e. the ones that look like humans, and obviously can create quite a few interesting scenarios when you're fighting against them. You get obviously the ultimate infiltrator, which is the T-1000, which clearly is ultimate badass. And the Resistance have big guns and they have plasma rifles, which means that they can actually have a chance of taking the Terminators out, because otherwise with normal weapons from our century, from our present, it's really hard work. Really, really hard work.
I think the films gave us some idea of how difficult that is.
Yeah, basically the mechanics of the game kind of recreate the fact that if you have anything that is not a 50 caliber thing, if you have just a normal weapon and just a normal small arm, you really can. The chances of actually destroy. You cannot physically destroy the Terminator. You can pepper it with enough lead. You can actually slightly damage it, knock it down, keep it down for a few seconds, and those few seconds are actually all important, because both sides can actually do a very nasty move, which is basically walk right next to somebody who is on the ground in a kind of a reeling, stunned situation, and just basically finish them off. The rule is called, what's it called? What could it be called?
Coup de grace.
Yes, that would be the normal way, but because it's Terminator, it's called... No? It's called Hasta la Vista, baby.
Ah,
that makes
obvious. Obvious.
So that's when you shoot them on the ground, is you put a plasma rifle in their nose and fire. Or if you're a Terminator, I suppose you just take the head and detach head from body, make sure that the resistance doesn't get up again. Yeah, there is this. I try to use a little bit of humor as usual, but like in the Terminator movies, but there's a lot of grimness going on as well.
Can we assume that the infiltration units will not have rocket launchers for their arms?
That would be interesting, isn't it? You go into a bunker pretending to be a bloke and go, well, what's that? Yes, my arm is a bit strange.
Might have trouble blending in with humanity, I think.
I have a condition. Yes, indeed. Well, I suppose if you're a T-1000, no, but they don't have rocket launchers, of course, just stabbing parts and cutting and blades.
Now, the license for this game, it covers everything that's in the new film, doesn't it? So, fortunately, the new film does contain Arnold, though.
Yes, it's certainly just for Genisys. It's not for anything that went before. The good thing, of course, is that the guys that are making the Genisys movie are really keen on effectively creating a separate timeline. Like they did with Star Trek. This kind of, and Terminator is perfect for that, because it's all about whether the future can be changed, cannot be changed. If you create a separate timeline, if you do something in the past, can you actually cancel Judgment Day, or fate is set, it will happen. You can delay it, but you cannot stop it. It is all about that. And so it makes it very easy to just go, right, okay, so if this changed in the past, and Sarah had a Terminator bodyguard when she was younger, and the Terminator grew older, and because, it's organic. So Arnie was young when he was first there, but then he grew old, and now he's an older Terminator, which you can see fighting against himself, younger himself, and it's a big important character in the film, and there will be models for it, of course. So Arnold is back, absolutely, and he's really keen on this movie. Seems, if you check his Facebook page, he keeps making comments and rumors and little hints, and so he seems really really into it.
Does it make it quite scary creating a game for a film that isn't even out yet? And there's always the possibility that it could be described as the biggest Hollywood disaster of all time, and all products affiliated with it are just automatically doomed.
It's true. It's true that obviously it's nerve-wracking because we haven't seen the movie. It would be a lot easier. Obviously, there is the will it be a success, will it not, which obviously there's nothing really we can do about that. But there is also the what exactly is going to be in, because from working on Lord of the Rings, I remember we reading the script and basing our game on the script, because they give you the script. I was like, yeah, I read the script. This is in it. This is in it. This is in it. This is not in it. Blah blah blah. And then you watch the movie and you go, right, that scene wasn't in the script. I was like, oh, this scene that was in the script is not in there anymore. and this didn't happen like that. So it was all, because things evolve and they change things until the very last minute with CGI particularly. So, yes, you may end up making units that don't exist in the movie. So, yeah, it's risky, it's scary, and of course, like all things, it can be a success. I mean, obviously, being a human being, in my head, there's always kinds of worst case scenarios, nightmare situations, and but if you let that stop you, then you don't do anything because you're always afraid of failure. So we'll try, and hopefully we'll try and succeed. And if we try and fail, well, at least we tried, and we've gone down fighting.
I think the name Terminator itself's a pretty big name though, so it will do well.
Yeah, but I think even if the movie is not as good, and actually being as good as Terminator 2 is, that is arguably, and from what you read, the best action movie ever made.
Yeah.
So leading up to that one, it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to compete.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
However, even if it wasn't, if it was in the ballpark, it would be fantastic. And I mean, if it was even better, yay! If he's just about there, yay! Even if it's not quite as good, yay! Anyway, because obviously, as you've seen with the game, we can do more. We can expand. Even so, we can go further and beyond. And then, if it's not a terrible, horrible flop, Paramount has announced 2 more movies. in 2017 and 18, I believe, or 16, no, so 17 and 18. So there's 2 more. There's a trilogy, because obviously these days you only do trilogies, which obviously means that, you know, it's potentially this is just the start. And actually, I should stress this out, because, you know, we have been told by quite a few people, oh, I'm glad you don't do a Kickstarter, etc., etc. And not doing a Kickstarter has certainly advantages, in the sense that you don't have the stress of the Kickstarter. However, the disadvantages are, of course, that you have to put up all the cash yourself in advance, which is not a not a little thing in this case. But also that you don't get quite a gauge of how much audience there is. So Kickstarter has some advantages and some disadvantages. But in our case, because we are a smaller company, we have definitely decided to do baby steps. You know, to take it little by little. Start with a starter set, sell the contents of the starter set, you know, in boxes, separate boxes, etc., and to try to add to the range. And again, we have a planned range, and if the film goes well, that planned range will come out. All of it, you know, scheduled to last after the movie, and you know, we couldn't, depending on results, we could end up making bigger kits, making tanks and stuff. Who knows? You know, it's too early to say. But basically, we'll start smaller. Don't expect 8 million codes on start. On the other end, of course, we went for quality, and we went for because we don't have time. And we don't have time to engage with China. China takes very long because you have to, you know, relate with people that speak kind of a different language far away, and then the stuff has to be shipped back to the UK, etc. Import tax, customs. So we went it's all UK. It's all UK made. If it's not just UK, something we may get from mainland Europe, but still, you know, I would say most of it is UK based, and particularly the models. The models we went to, you know, very seasoned, famous designer. Used to work at Games Workshop, and now is everybody's kind of go-to guy. when nobody else can do it, you can. As lucky as finding Bob Naismith, and so Bob, with his huge experience, is working on us on the plastics, and the plastics are going to be tooled and produced in the UK and produced by Renedra, which, again, arguably are the best company in the world for hard plastics. So, you know, we you know, as I said, I broken the bank account of River Horse, as you can imagine. But you know, we try to do fewer things but nice, and then build up from that, as opposed to do a lot of things and compromise on how we do them. We'll see if that's the right way to do it or not. We'll learn.
If it goes horribly wrong, we'll expect to see you next time with an even lower ceiling behind you.
This is my chalet-style little office.
Now, Spud, I have just heard in my ear from our army of producers that we have actually had some questions in, which I'm sure you're totally on top of.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so yeah, we have Miss Annie White. Do you have any Annie sneak peeks at all yet?
What?
Do you have any Arnold Schwarzenegger sneak peeks? She's asking, really. Scopes.
Well, I do. I mean, I have read the script, so there's a lot of cool stuff I could say. Unfortunately, I cannot say. Literally.
Okay.
As you know, I've signed big NDAs. You have signed big NDAs. That's one of the projects of working on licenses. I mean, it's cool to have the name. It's cool to have the kudos and the might of this names of this brand. However, the drawback is that also these companies have lawyers and studios and, you know, platoons of lawyers with really, really nasty reputations that you really don't want to go, you know, to upset. So,
is there someone chiseling away, creating his face right now?
Well, the thing is, suddenly he goes through a lot of different stages of age, as you can see from the trailer. You know, some bits oldish. At the end, when he's just about to take the helicopter out with his face, he looks older. So, you know, there's a lot of different stages of Arnold growing older, etc. And I can say that one thing that I hope they keep in the script is there's quite a few jokes about, you know, in-jokes, things like, have you seen the the one with Stallone and all the tough guys. What's it called? The Expendables.
Expendables.
Yeah. In the Expendables, when Arnie appears and says, "Oh no, we all belong in a museum," kind of thing. And so there's humor like that. There is a bit of that, playing on the fact that the Terminator is old and Arnold is old, and so self-irony, nice. I hope they keep it. Obviously, it may not be in the movie because again, who knows? Who knows what's kept and what's dropped in the cutting room.
I think face bombing helicopters is probably one way to prematurely age yourself.
Yes. How do I take out the rotors of the helicopter? With my nose.
So, Spud, more questions?
Yeah, we have a question from David Smith. Will expansion figure packs be in a similar board game style, or will they be more like a wargame type with more parts and options?
It depends on how the game goes. We are planning to do probably it's not confirmed. We're going probably to do 2 boxes. One more aimed at Wargamers, which has the rulebook, has the resin in it, and maybe not confirmed yet. We could make a simpler box set, maybe aim more at board gamers. And we lost Spud, by the way.
I think he's just made himself invisible.
Okay.
Maybe he has to sneeze or something.
And in the kind of a cheaper box set, you wouldn't have the rulebook. You would have the little starter guide leaflet, and you wouldn't have the resin. So it's kind of like more really of a board gaming experience, while the other one is more aimed at wargamers. And then, of course, I suppose depending on how our audience responds, and we see where our customers lie and who they are, based on numbers, we can probably try to go slightly more towards the simplicity of the board game, or more into the war game. Frankly, my comfort zone is war games, so of course I would say, well, okay, the next plastic frame would be multi-component, glue, etc., and make more different. It will depend how we make those new Terminators, whether they are, the flamethrower, the command unit, the rocket launcher, the plasma rifles instead of the plasma machine gun. So I cannot answer this question straight away. It is early, but what I would like to do, yes, of course, I would like to do more wargamer-like kits, because that's who I am.
And you were talking about crowdfunding and that kind of thing earlier. There have been a lot of these smaller companies that do a Kickstarter, especially if they have some kind of really impressive IP to work with. Just based on that, the Kickstarter completely goes through the roof, does huge amount of money, and then they suddenly find that they're not really in a position to deliver in the time they promised because they're only a small company, and it gets a bit out of hand sometimes. So.
Yes, I think that's what, as I was saying, when I said the drawback Kickstarter, you get the stress of Kickstarter, and by that I mean exactly what you were talking about. Basically, you have less control, because obviously the early launch means that you're kind of thinking of what you could and could not produce, and the costs of it and the complexity of it, but because you haven't gone through all of that, particularly if you're a smaller company that's not done the same kind of thing before, then you have to learn very fast, and you can have some really nasty surprises down the line. When a supplier goes, "Oh, well, actually, no, we didn't understand what you wanted. This is not going to cost 20 pence per box. This is going to cost £1.20 per box." And suddenly you go, "Oh dear, what do we do now?" So it's that's the stress and the danger of the Kickstarter, as opposed to we still have pressure because we don't have much time, because we want to release in July. So it's not a relaxed trip, but certainly is not quite as dramatic as a Kickstarter. The outcome, of course, is that we start smaller. Baby steps, like I said, a little bit at a time, find our feet slowly and grow. We hope that the customers will grow with us. Start with a small game and build it up. The game can be played. It's centered on the war against machines, but it also has the little scenarios set in the present with a lot of cops with guns, normal guns, against a single Terminator that is cutting them to pieces. That kind of thing.
Actually, on that subject, there was just a question from Bazooka J. Rambo, who said, would you be releasing expansions, rules, and miniatures so you can play scenarios in present-day Los Angeles?
Scenarios already in the book. Miniatures, of course. Why wouldn't we release miniatures of Sarah Connor and Arnie and old Arnie and damaged Arnie and Arnie on a motorbike and Arnie with shotgun and Arnie and more Arnies? Yes, of course. The plan is to keep releasing characters and both for the future war and for the present scenarios. The present scenarios are more narrative, as in the game contains battle scenarios, which are the more based on the wargame machines, where kind of like balance scenarios, tournament-style scenarios for pick-up-and-play games, for competitive play. But then there's a narrative section of the book which has more scenarios set in the wargame machines, more like based on the film and on the scenes of the film, prison camps, breaking out prisoners of the prison camps, all these kind of things, attacks on the compound. And then there's a series of scenarios set in modern-day US, which, frankly, I think will probably be played better with. We're thinking of making a set of possibly metals, because we want the T1000 in metal. It seemed like the thing to do. To make a set with basically policemen, T1000, some more Sarah Connor and Schwarzenegger. I don't know, Sarah Connor with 50 cal sniper rifle, for example. Sounds like a nice model.
I just had a great idea for a scenario, actually. So you can steal this if you want. Here's how it goes. You have 4 people controlling different Arnies, starting off in different corners of the table, and in the middle, well, they're all naked Arnies, by the way. And there's one guy in the middle who is a human wearing clothes, and they all have to fight it out to get his clothes off him.
Your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. That's the title of the.
So, what are the chances of that sneaking into the rule book?
Well, I don't know if they will approve a naked Arnie model, or we can try.
You can always try.
Yes, we'll see. It has to be anatomically correct, I'm sure. So that'll be interesting.
So also, another question from Bazooka J. Rambo. Would you be able to send back newer Terminators, upgraded Terminators, to terminate Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese?
Well, there are scenarios, obviously, which are based on that, on the two of them trying to survive against the 1000s, which is not easy. However, there is a core mechanic in the game, which effectively is the reroll mechanic, which is called a TDD, a time displacement device, which basically what you do is when each player has one of these TDD markers. So the TDD marker is effectively the ploy. This allows you to send one of your agents back in time to change the present or the future in this case and alter the result of the dice. So, I rolled a 1 when I needed to roll a 2 or more on the D20, and I go, no, this means my whatever is dead, and I go, oh dear. So I will send my agent in the past to change the guy that trains this guy, so that actually will teach him to shoot more accurately or dodge or whatever. So it's in the rule that you have to make up a suitably made up far-fetched story to say what are you doing to change that dice roll, and then you get a reroll. However, and you can buy more of this. You can buy more agents to send in the past. However, of course, the enemy, when you do use one of those tokens, if the enemy still has tokens, he can actually go, I don't want you to reroll that dice. I want you to stay dead. I don't want to change history. So I will send my agent into the past to kill your agent, so you don't get that reroll. So then you have effectively a roll-off based on the quality of the agency you bought and you sent back. And the roll-off is this fight between I suppose you could have literally a scenario if you wanted to. But otherwise, it's normally a roll-off based on, again, to redraw dice based on the quality of the stuff that is fighting in the past. And so if you win, you can get your reroll. If your agent is killed, then you don't get your reroll. But of course, the enemy can decide to let you do the reroll and keep their agent to change the dice in the future when they need it. But they may be wasting it. So yeah, so you can kind of do it in any game.
It's kind of an interesting concept for a never-ending game where one person wins and the other says, okay, well, I'm just going to go back in time and prevent this battle from happening. So then you play another scenario that's based on that, and it just keeps going on forever.
It's a nice scenario. It's a nice campaign rule, isn't it? Play the scenario again until you're both kind of falling asleep. No, that's not quite something we thought of.
Looks like Spud's returned.
Put his back.
Hello.
Where did you wander off to, Spud?
I needed the toilet and I had to put my washing out.
You could have at least said, "I'll be back," before you left.
I didn't want to interrupt the speech.
What a missed chance. I'll be back would be nice.
Yeah, sorry.
So it looks like, oh, there's more comments actually. More questions. Bazooka J Rambo again. You crazy, crazy man.
Do we know him?
Yes, he is a community legend.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, he wants to know where will the game be available to buy from.
Well, the game is distributed in the entire universe. By the way, while I speak, I will flash something past you guys. Maybe. Is that what I think it is?
We could get secrets here by accident.
Now you don't. Well, that was just some 3 apps that we knocked together very quickly, not the finished ones. We're still bits and bobs and it tweaking, and but we just sprayed them silver to make them look like they might look when they are in metal. But yeah, it's obviously unfinished stuff, so we don't want to show it too much in detail. But you know, they'll be worked on. Sorry, you were saying, what was the question?
The question is, where will the game be available to buy from? Now, did I see something about an exclusive distributor for this game?
Yes, Warlord. Warlord Games are gonna, because they have a very, very strong relationship with Games Workshop. Very horse. My head is getting a bit big. Yes, not quite that size yet. With River Horse, they have a very good relationship with us, and basically, they're going to provide quite a few of the components. They're going to cast some of the resins for us. They're going to assemble it and then sell it through their sales team. So we design it, we ship all the components, buy them all, pay them all, send them all to Warlord. Some of them they will actually cast themselves and send them basically into this big room in Warlord where everything gets assembled, packed, shrink wrapped, and then hopefully sold throughout the world. And they basically sell it for us to everybody, because effectively River Horse is a design studio. We don't have a sales force or indeed a manufacturing arm or a warehouse, so we basically rely on this partnership with them. They sell it for us, we make it, they sell it. Simple as that.
Have you an approximate price for the game yet, or is that still in the works still?
Yeah, we think that the Wargamers set, which is the most complete one, which basically will have, just recap what's in there. You get 16 rebels with 4 heavy weapons, 4 rocket launchers, 4 grenade launchers, and various weapons. So you get 16 rebels, in resin, big commander type. Then you get 10 Terminators and 5 crawlers. You get dice, 2 of each of the polyhedral dice. So that's 12 dice, plus the fate dice. That's 13 dice. You get 2 or 3 or more punch boards. It really depends on costings. But one punch board does all the counters, activation, and all the templates. And the other one has terrain and other little bits of tokens that you need, like the Alsatian marker, which basically means the model has a dog to detect infiltrators. And then there's a third template punch board we are planning, which is the prison camp template, which basically makes you fences, laser fencing, etc., like you see in the trailer. So 3 punch boards, then a play mat, which comes about, at the moment, the specs are like 3 feet times 2 when you fold it out. And then this is a cheaper version. We'll be selling a posh, nice version, but it was too expensive to put in the box. So we provide like a free or including in the box. There's a free mat, but then there's a nicer mat out. Can be bought.
Yeah, there was just a question about the possibility of a deluxe playing mat.
Yeah, we're looking into mats, either vinyl or rubbery. We're still looking at costs, etc. for those. But yes, the plan would be cheap one in the box, paper, nice glossy paper, but paper. And then the nicer one bagged separately. And then, so we'll say templates, punch board, rule book. full soft cover, full color rule book with lots of scenarios, rules, and an arm list for the machines and for the resistance. And the 16 pages starter little guide, reference sheet, stuff that does both jobs. I believe that's the contents. I might be forgetting something. And we were thinking of £70 to the public, which is comparable with the other starter sets out there. Potentially the cheaper box that doesn't have the rulebook and doesn't have the resin will retail at less. I don't know, £50, £55. It's not been decided yet. I mean, we don't even know whether we are going to do that or not. So maybe.
Also, there was a question about the scenery. You said there was going to be the 2D terrain.
Yep.
Is that going to be the limit on the terrain that's available?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's a kind of a density we think is right for the terrain on that surface. But obviously, the rulebook again has an hobby section in there that shows you how to assemble and paint the models, but also how to make terrain. Because, as I said, it starts wargame-esque. If you want to keep the experience at that level and just play 2D terrain and 3D models, that's fine. You can play your model because the rebels, the resistance are going to be in resin. In green plastic. The Terminators are in silvery metal plastic, so you can keep it like that and play it as play it again in there. But otherwise you can scale it up to a full board game, and we show you how to make war game terrain, and the rules are all from a top-down point of view. So whether your terrain is 2D flat or is a 3D raised, as in a proper war game terrain, makes no difference in terms of rules at all, because it's all top-down. So it's down to aesthetics and what you prefer. So so it's going to be, in theory, playable as a board game and upscalable to a war game.
I've got another question from Bazooka J. Rambo. He's not holding back tonight. He wants to know, can you capture Terminators and reprogram them to fight for your army?
Well, exactly. In the army selection, it says that about a quarter of your force can be made using the other side. Because there's a lot of that green thing about reprogramming Terminators or hacking them, or using a computer virus that starts to make them fight against their mates and stuff. So you can pick stuff from the Terminator side. There's a lot of that metal amongst the resistance, and on the other side, of course, there's the collaborators. There's the guys that actually could go and starve and eat rats when I'm lucky in the tunnels and be killed and hunted, or I could work for these guys that give me a place to sleep and some hot food, and it's very sad of humanity, but that happens. So there's a possibility of both using each other's troops to a small degree. I haven't decided on the pointage. Yes, I mean, it's still in development, but that is a possibility.
Spud taking a drink there.
9 o'clock. Are we heading towards the end?
I think we are.
Yes, defos.
So while we're wrapping up, if anyone wants to throw in any last-minute comments, now's the time.
Time to get emotional.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm really excited about this. Terrified, but excited.
It's very exciting times.
I told everybody. As soon as it got released, I could tell everybody it was pretty awesome.
Spud was just running down the street telling people.
Yeah, just all the random people. I went into local Chinese. I get my noodles from and all sorts. It was just so emotional.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you. I suppose I could leave the audience with a question. I could again have a little screen share. A little screen share again. And I could go. Come on, work with me. It's probably already open. Yeah. Right. The question is, who sculpted this?
Ooh.
Right. I'll leave it with that.
What happens if they get it right?
Well done.
That is some serious incentive there. Will they get a personal well done from you?
Actually, I haven't thought of it in terms of a competition, to be honest. I just made it up right now. So they could be added to the secret playtest group, I suppose.
Ooh.
The secret playtest group, which is at the moment busy playtesting and making terrain and making stuff. And
Very secretive.
Well, I think all the audience have fainted after that, so there hasn't been any more questions.
Well, it's worth pointing to the audience that actually there is a Facebook page, Terminator Genisys, the miniature page, where you can actually, the miniatures game, where you can go and start to have, we'll have some peaks or some new news there. And of course there is also the River Horse new website where people can go on the Terminator page and register for a newsletter, where we'll send updates and new pictures and stuff as they become available.
And of course, we'll put some links down in the description after this video processes. So, I think that's everything.
Mr. Graham Collins.
Oh, last minute
legend.
question.
Oh, it's not a question, he's just saying he made it.
Oh. Well, he made it just before the end, so he'll have to watch the rest later, won't he?
Yeah, and Bazooka J. Rumbo is the guy that asked 10 questions on the Beast of War comments after missing the hangout, it says.
Right, I will go and have a look at that. Yeah, sorry, I'm so busy. I promised that I would answer some questions there. I started and then I got completely distracted by a billion things that I need to do. So I will go back to that. Yes, I should. Yes.
Maybe you could send someone back in time to answer the questions for you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an emotional roller coaster yet again, hasn't it, Spud?
It's been absolutely amazing. Like, it's been so long since we've done anything like this. You know, it was just so good to see Andy's face in HD once more.
Yeah.
That's the general audience feedback that we get.
Yeah, it's really good to be back. You know, we want to do a few more with some other people and stuff, and come back at it more. It's just been so busy, isn't it?
We're actually trying to put together the Kings of War special soon, aren't we, Spud?
Yeah, with someone else. This guy that's never been on.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Alessio.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
It's been emotional, and good night, folks.
I'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.